Before we get into this video, guys, I just want to say please check out the original series on TikTok first before watching this video, as although I am breaking down the videos and everything in this video and making up my theories, I think you guys should check out the series first for yourself and then come back and watch this video. Without further ado, let's begin.
I know what you love.
Hey, everyone! I need your help!
You're on your own.
Your destination.
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is one of the biggest fighting games of all time, and one of the biggest crossovers of all times. Creating such a large community, making such great fan creations as mods, fan games, special gaming events, machinima, and fan fictions in some cases, this community has really made something special. And on the 23rd of June 2024, the first entry in the first season of a Super Smash Bros. Infection Alternative Universe story was uploaded to TikTok. And now with its first season complete, I've decided to take a deep dive into this series created by TikTok user LovePit. All his links will be down in the description below. So with all that being said, grab some snacks, turn off the lights, get comfy, and let's take a deep dive into Super Smash Bros. World in Dark. We open chapter 1 with some notes from Ness. Cappy's with me. Mario tried throwing Cappy to save himself from Kirby, but since it hit me, it didn't make any effect and Mario was killed. I'm also with Villager, Marth and Sheik right now. I'll write their statuses in the next pages. As we go on, we get a character sheet for each character stating their status and a note attached to each one. For Ness, it says they are on the search for the hands for some help with all this chaos. For Sheik, it says that they met Sheik while they were fighting Kirby, and ever since the fight, she's been silent and keeping to herself. And as for Villager, Villager was seen around the Colosseum when all of this was happening, and now our team here are taking refuge in his universe. Going over Marth now, on Marth's sheet it says that he's no longer infected, and this is also backed up by the fact that it says that Kirby stung him with one of his tentacles, and then the villager had to amputate Marth's arm. Although saying that he is no longer infected, I'm gonna keep holding a suspicion that he might still be. We then get another diary entry from Ness talking about the virus, and how Mario and Ness found Kirby acting strangely, and then Kirby having tentacles. But last time I checked, Kirby doesn't have any tentacles. We now get a good look at what Kirby has become, with tentacles coming out of his mouth and arm, and the hand of our favourite plumber, Mario. And that, dear viewer, is how Chapter 1 ends. Chapter 2 begins and we get another diary entry from Ness. We decided to find the hands and Kirby, so he won't cause any more chaos. We'll try going to his universe to see if anyone can help. Ness then goes on to talk about the symptoms when someone would get the virus, and has had the help from Cappy to write these notes down. Phase 1. Completely unaffected by the virus, yet infected. Has a small sting, presumably made by the other infected tentacle. We still don't know where he got it from. Phase 2. It starts about a day after the sting. Dull eyes. Completely conscious. Starts feeling pain from the wound. Smiles involuntarily. Looks worried and scared. Phase 3. Empty eyes and progressively empty body. Violent, but they won't try to hunt. Very hungry. Remnants of personality. Distorted voice. Formation of tentacles. They are used to, presumably, spread the virus. I suspected there might be another phase after the third one, I have no evidence for it now, but I hope to find more if we manage to find Kirby. Over the next 3 pages we get some disembodied voice talking to either us the viewer or somebody else. Inhale. Take a deep breath. Do you like the cold spring breeze? Go deep inside the green forest and look at the stars falling down. Don't worry, there is no one left there, nor the village, nor anywhere. The only thing with you is the violent gusts pulling your last taste of safety away. Stop holding on to the ground. His hunger is torturing him, and his appetite is only growing him bigger. You really wish it was all a bad dream, don't you? Now it really is a mystery to who is talking here and who they are talking to, but I want to hold that thought for later. Anyway, we go back to Ness's notes saying that they found Kirby, and we get one big look at what Kirby has become, with the following: Dreamland is gone. Chapter 3 is a lot shorter compared to the other chapters that we are reviewing in this part. Ness and crew managed to escape Dreamland and returning to villagers' home. It's said that Marv didn't go with them because he was too weak, and Ness notes that the villager seemed really calm given everything that's going on, but shrugs it off saying that it could be because he's from a passive world. She is still worried about something and was gonna go off on her own, but was convinced not to by the others. Ness notes that Dreamland was completely destroyed by Kirby, but Kirby seems self-contained there, at least for now. It's also said that they couldn't help anyone escape, as to enter the world of light you need an invitation from the hands. It's also said that King Dedede and Meta Knight were nowhere to be found. This chapter ends with a complete different point of view, being someone who we will see in the next chapter. They mention how they have Rob with them and how Rob has finally brought them an infected for them to study. Speaking of chapter 4, let's dive straight into it. Chapter 4 is different compared to the other entries, as when it was uploaded on TikTok, all the slides were in reverse timeline order. However, for this coverage, we're gonna go in time order. We are also following Dr. Mario's perspective and no longer Ness's, although their stories will eventually come together. It says that on day 1 that Dr. Mario was awakened by some hallucinations, saying they were flashbacks of something he never experienced, and ever since Dr. Mario has been having a bad feeling. Dr. Mario, not infected. He's afraid of entering back to his universe since the original Mario is dead. Smash's universe works differently than the others. His efforts have been in vain so far. On day 2, Dr. Mario visits Dreamland to see if Kirby has anything to do with his discomfort. The Doctor witnesses the monster Kirby has become, and he overhears Ness mentioning how the original Mario is dead. He mentions how he's afraid to return to the Mushroom Kingdom, saying that he might die as the original Mario no longer exists. Jumping over to day 6 now, we are introduced to our new ally, Rob the robot, who was wandering around the forest, so Dr. Mario took him in and explained the situation. Rob is now helping research the virus to find a cure. Dr. Mario is almost certain Rob is immune to the virus because he is a robot. Rob the robot, immune. Rob was injured while defending himself from an infected character before meeting the Doctor. After that, he served as Dr. Mario's assistant, since he can go outside without any risk of getting infected. Dr. Mario finally begins work on day 7 with Rob bringing Dr. Mario an infected. The Doctor ties up the infected so it can stay contained, and it is noted that it is in its second stage of infection, so that it is not violent and still in control. On day 8 at 16 minutes past midnight, we get our next log date. It is showing that our infected character is Olimar from the Pikmin series. This was actually foreshadowed to us on day 6, as right here on the right side we can see Olimar from the shoulders down. Dr. Mario has been given Olimar some pills that temporarily stop the infection from spreading. And later at 9:34 AM, we get our next log. Olimar has 2 stings on him, one at his center abdomen and one on his head. It's noted that because he already is in stage 2, that the more stings that is on a person, the quicker the virus will spread. Olimar told Dr. Mario that he was in the forest when something attacked him and that Rob found Olimar unconscious, with no Pikmin, but believes they are still with him. Finally, at 4:34 PM, we are told that Olimar is entering stage 3. We are then greeted by an image of Olimar on the table that Dr. Mario had him on, with plants coming out of his body. I guess those Pikmin were still with him. With the first 4 entries over with, I want to take a moment to gather my thoughts and point out some things that I noticed while covering these first 4 entries. The first thing I want to point out is something to do with Ness's teammates, Marth, Sheik and Villager. If you guys played the World of Light mode in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you would know right after unlocking Mario and fighting the Guardian Rob spirit, you would then have to fight either Marth, Villager or Sheik. And then that way you can unlock them, with the other 2 being locked away, and you would have to find an alternative way to find them. This fight also takes place in a Colosseum-like area, which was also pointed out in Villager's character profile. I also want to point out these pages. We constantly keep getting these pages with black squares in the corner, and I honestly have not figured out what they're meant to be. Well, actually, if you take a look at this one, you will see that these black squares are a part of this screen, showing pieces of where some text is shown and some symbols in the background. And you're probably wondering what these are, and I ask you that please wait until we cover Anthology 1 and Chapter 5 for my take on what these screens are supposed to be. Now, I mentioned the World of Light just a second ago, and I want to circle back to that topic. And I'd like to talk about one of the antagonists in the story mode. You see, once you've beaten Galim in the World of Light for the first time, the sky begins to crack, and from those cracks we see tentacles, the tentacles of Darkon. And these tentacles could possibly be what are causing the infections in the World of Light. And when Darkon appears, it's said that all of Galen's spirits and puppets become his. So it's possible that all those characters in World of Light, in the World of Light story mode, when Darkon takes control and you unlock in the Dark Realm, they have become his, and now they are automatically become infected. You see, everyone so far that we've met in the world, in this story mode, are in Galim's World of Light, with one exception being Rob, who is immune to this. So unless we see another character that is unlocked in the Dark Realm, alive and or uninfected, we should probably assume that's the case. Well, about that. Anthology 1 isn't like the previous entries, as we don't get any diary entries from Ness or Dr. Mario. Instead, we see pages, the same pages that I spoke about earlier, with the Kirby icon and the other entries where it was just text from a third party. This person first asks, do you ever wonder what those shadows are that you see in the corner of your eyes? Also, if you have a keen eye, you'd notice that there is some text in the background which is less prominent than the actual text. This is something we'll cover at the end of level 2. This next page we still have text, but we also get the sighting of an alive Yoshi and Luigi, which is why I said my theory from before isn't going to work, as Luigi is found in the Dark Realm, and Luigi is clearly alive and uninfected here. So, thus making my theory from before not work, or at least not completely, but that's something I'll again cover at the end of this level. Anyway, the text on this page reads, it's easy to confuse him for trees or dark spots, but plants don't whisper. They aren't alive. He isn't either. The next 2 pages goes as follows. You know how darkness gives a feel of solitude? It is fun how fast leaves and shadows turn into demons at night. On the next page, we then see a good look at Luigi and Yoshi that seem to be walking around this forest, and they seem quite afraid. You know you aren't alone though. And now on this page, we get a good look into Yoshi's eye. And in his eye, we can slightly see what they have been looking at. Or, more likely, what has been following them. He was following you. He was just waiting for you to find him. And the he that is mentioned here is Mr. Game & Watch holding his bell, which explains why at the beginning of these pages the first word is ring. But most importantly, from this anthology chapter, we can see that we now have our third infected. Moving on to chapter 5 now, it starts with Dr. Mario telling us that Rob has now killed Olimar because of his infection now starting to make him aggressive. The doctor has gathered some blood samples from Olimar, but wasn't able to find any pathogens or indications of a virus, and assumes that the disease is from a non-scientific origin. Rob has found some Pikmin inside Olimar, and they say that the Pikmin is what made Olimar's infection spread faster. We are then told that Master Hand and Crazy Hand have now disappeared, and there has been no combat since the chaos has begun, and everyone is in a permanent stamina mode, thus giving everybody no chance of revival. Blood wasn't something that was seen in the world of Smash, even with Bayonetta and the Belmonts being in that world. But since everything has been going on, blood has been something that everybody now has. Everything that has happened so far in this chapter has been taking place on day 8, which is where chapter 4 left off. On day 9, Mewtwo and Mii Sword Fighter have arrived at Dr. Mario's shelter, who have been chased by something or someone, and Dr. Mario isn't too trusting of them, but he still lets them in. Mii Sword Fighter, not infected. He was looking for a place to hide since he lost the other Miis when he found the base. He said he lost his sword, so he is unarmed. I still think he's sort of suspicious. I can't trust him. Mewtwo, not infected. He told me that he was being chased by an infected Pokemon trainer when he found the base and the Mii. He also added that the Pokemon trainer was not chasing the Mii but only him. It makes this infection more confusing, but still I can't trust him. Damn, Dr. Mario's got more trust issues than me. On the next page, we get the same page that we've been seeing constantly with the symbols and where we would normally see text of narration. But this time, like we did in Anthology 1, we have seen some hidden text, which again, I will cover at the end of this level. Also, right after this page, we see an infected Pokemon trainer and Squirtle, and we see the wing of an infected Charizard. So that also makes me assume that Ivysaur is also infected. But for now, I'm just gonna count them as one big infected. After seeing what the Pokemon trainer now looks like, we get another page with some hidden text which I am just about to go over, but as this chapter ends, we see that Ness and crew have finally reached Dr. Mario's base, so it seems that all our teams are now together, at least for now. Now that we have finished reading these chapters for level 2, let's cover what we just discovered, starting with my previous theory being disproven, as we've seen that Luigi is alive and not infected. And in the World of Light mode, you can only unlock Luigi through the Dark Realm. But the main thing I do want to talk about for this section, which I will come back to the Luigi facts in a minute, is all the hidden text that we've seen in Anthology 1 and Chapter 5. Which goes as follows. Do you know who I am? Do you know me? You are aware this is your fault, right? This is your fault. He's gonna catch you all. He doesn't know he's lying. These are all the hidden messages in both Anthology 1 and Chapter 5. Now at first I thought that these were coming from the infectors' heads and that they were talking about themselves, but the fact that it talks in the third person makes me think otherwise. Which brings me to my other theory, which connects to my original theory about Darkon. This could still be involving Darkon, and Darkon could be the person talking right now, but we just need to find out who he's talking to. Darkon could still be infecting people. Just my theory about all the characters from the Dark Realm already being infected is false, with Darkon still be the one doing everything. So that is my main theory for now. Some other things I want to point out is the fact that Smash has completely changed, now adding blood and being in a permanent stamina mode, which means if someone dies, they aren't coming back. There aren't stocks or anything like that. I think for now we should continue to our final level for this season and see if any more theories come about, or see if any of my theories so far are coming true. So without further ado, let's go into level 3. The rest of the entries in this series are all videos. So for the rest of this video for level 3, I'm going to show you the video, then we'll go and talk about each individual video, then at the end, we'll talk about everything. So without further ado, let's begin with our first video entry being Anthology 2. In Anthology 2, we follow Snake from Metal Gear being chased by the Inkling Boy from Splatoon. We can see that the Inkling Boy is already in its 3rd stage of infection, and it looks like Snake has been stung. We then see Snake dive into some water and is met by a horrifying fate. Already in Anthology 2, we can already see how impactful using the video form of media to tell the story of the Wild and Dark series. But we are just getting started, so let's go to chapter 6. Chapter 6 takes place with the Dr. Mario crew in Dr. Mario's bunker. It begins with Rob, who's been badly beaten down, bringing in an infected Pichu. Dr. Mario tells Rob to leave it on the table, and as soon as he does, it just disappears. We then cut to Mewtwo and Mii Sword Fighter, with Mewtwo then suddenly disappearing. We then cut to a different location where Mewtwo is standing in a different room and Pichu is standing right behind a corner, who pounces onto Mewtwo and stabs him with his tentacles and infects him. Chapter 4 will then end with Pichu repeatedly stinging Mewtwo with its tentacles. And back from Chapter 4, we know that the more stings on a person, the quicker the infection will spread. And Chapter 6 also ends with a depiction of the Smash roster showing who's dead, alive, and infected so far.
Greetings, inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom. Here's your princess to inform you of an imminent crisis nearby. Please remain calm and listen to the following instructions to keep you and your friends safe. There is a dangerous virus affecting certain inhabitants, specifically those who have invitations to Super Smash Bros. As far as we know, anyone who does not have an invitation is immune to the virus, but not to the attack of the infected. We do not know Mario's whereabouts, so we invite everyone to stay in the safety of their homes, and if you are in one of the following areas, please evacuate to a safer zone. You could be in danger. Western regions of the kingdom. Rainbow Curse. Mushroom Kingdom 2. Golden Plains. Grassy Planetoid. Mario Circuit. And New Donk City Hall. As your princess, I really hope everyone is safe during these times of crisis. We've been in worse situations before, so I ask everyone...
This next entry is a doozy, so I'll try my best to cover everything I possibly can. We first start off with Luigi arriving before Peach and Daisy. With no Yoshi in sight, this can only mean that Yoshi has fallen to Mr. Game & Watch. As soon as that happens, we see a broadcast for the Super Mario Bros. Super Show until...
Greetings, inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom.
Ah yes, a classic in analog horror. The emergency broadcast, Mandela Catalogue, Greylock, and the infamous Local 58. In analog horror and stories like these, using the emergency broadcast as a form of telling how dangerous a situation can be is a great way to do it. Imagine you're sitting at home watching your favorite TV show and then the ear-bleeding sound of the emergency alert system on your TV plays. Although this has been used in a lot of series and some people may find it repetitive or a cliche, I think it's a great way to show how horrifying a situation can be in these stories. It helps set a tone and send a sense of unease to your viewers. Anyway, back to the main topic. We are then told by Peach that the virus seems to be only targeting people who have been invited to join Smash. We are then greeted by the same image of Mr. Game & Watch we saw back in Anthology 1. We are then told that Mario's whereabouts is unknown to the Mushroom Kingdom, meaning unfortunately they have no idea what's become of their hero. The inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom are told to evacuate any locations that are stages in Super Smash Bros. Peach then gives her final message to the people of the Mushroom Kingdom, but then is interrupted by Daisy's scream, glass shattering, and the appearance of the infected piranha plant. And this is how Anthology 3 ends. With each new entry, things get more intense. This chapter begins with Mewtwo's portrait on the Smash roster going from a question mark to being alive to then being infected. We then finally meet up with Ness, who has been let in by Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario takes Ness and his group to the Mii Sword Fighter and questions where Mewtwo has gone. He questions where Mewtwo is and then goes to look for him, but then Rob would then be thrown across the room and being destroyed by the infected Mewtwo. We then see a whole sequence of the survivors seeing Mewtwo. Mii Sword Fighter gets taken down, and then we see a scared Ness. But there's two things I noticed. Take a look. that, the same music that played when Snake was being chased by the Inkling is being played now. Now this could be nothing, but I have a feeling there's some form of connection with using the same piece of music in both. It could just be to fit what's going on in the scene, but I do want to keep this in mind just in case there is a connection with this music. The chapter then ends with Ness's team being saved by Dr. Mario, who is then faced with the infected Mewtwo and an infected Olimar.
Do not be afraid, my dear shepherds. I have great news. I am your true savior. I know everything about what makes you human. I know what you love. I know what you dread.
Now I don't know if I'm the only one that is thinking this, but Lady Palutena is seriously giving me Gabriel vibes from the Man Catalog series. Now, spoilers for Mandela Catalog in 3, 2, 1. In the Mandela Catalog, Gabriel is the main antagonist and is known as the first alternate, which, if you don't know, he makes alternates. He made the other alternates in the series, and they somewhat act differently to how Gabriel does. So what if Lady Palutena was the first infected of the World and Dark series, and because of that, she's given the ability, or is herself being able to mask her infection. And the Phase 4, I believe that's what the stage of infection she is in. We'll come back to this topic later, but I do want you to keep that in mind for my big theory at the end. Also in this entry, Pit is told by Lady Palutena to gather the other guest fighters. Mega Man, Pac-Man, Ryu and Ken, Cloud and Sephiroth, Hero, Banjo and Kazooie, Terry, Bayonetta, Simon and Richter, Kazuya, Joker, Sora, Steve, and I will get back to you, you blue gumball son of a bitch. So with that, Pit goes and finds Mega Man and it then begins his search to finding the rest of all the guest fighters. Well, except for one. Now we are finally at the last entry of Season 1, Epilogue. Epilogue begins with going back to basics with the nest notes and an update on the infection notes and how they work. I'll let you pause and read for each of the entries. But as we go on, one thing I notice is that Olimar, Mewtwo and Pichu are all told to be in their 4th stage of infection. Now this may prove my theory about Palutena being correct, but also on these pages we go back to some of the hidden text. Take a look. On that day when our light went away, this world started to end. In your eyes a fading sunrise, in the dark turning off your voice. Noises grow in the spaces between, stretching you beyond time. Rising up's not an option that you can take on, flickering through your heart. These little sparks fight for their lives. Everyone suffers the struggle. And then the storm of change. They fan the flames, destroying wishes to the wind. Colors fade into a spiral of shame. A distant voice calls to a past with no end. Tell your tale, the choices have to be made. You're not okay when you cannot be yourself. Colors fade into a spiral of dark. The voices now started coming from far. This monster you made just cannot be damned. And now you can only ask, why are you even alive? Hold on a second.
On that day when the sky fell away, our world came to an end. In our eyes did a fading sunrise in the dark, glimmering shadows. Silence grows in the spaces between, stretching out beyond time. Rising up as a chorus of souls finds a voice, flickering through the void. These little sparks cling on to life, everyone caught in this struggle. And then the storms of change, they fan the flames, scattering ashes to the wind. Colors weave into a spire of flame, distant sparks call to a path still unnamed. Bear this torch against the cold of the night, search your soul and reawaken the undying.
So the words used for the hidden text are actually altered lyrics from Lifelike, the theme of Smash Ultimate. We also see a Bloody Me fighter on the ground with the text, "Why am I still alive?" which then also repeats that sentence with showing shots of the different infectors we've seen so far in Season 1. And then we end this chapter, this epilogue, this entry of Season 1 with the appearance of Banjo-Kazooie in front of Dr. Mario. So now with all that covered, theory time. So let's begin this with my Palutena theory. I believe that Palutena was the first, or at least the original, infected of this series, like how Gabriel is the first alternate, the original alternate from the Mandela catalogue. The way I see it being played is that Palutena is being manipulated or controlled by Darkon, who gave her the infection first. And I suspect that Darkon is still the main antagonist and that Palutena is merely just a pawn. That's why he infected her first. And that she's gonna be able to manipulate other characters, like for example Pit, to bring people to her to then turn these other characters into infected. For example, all the guest characters are still alive, except for Snake. If Palutena gets them and infects them, there are people like Bayonetta, Sephiroth and Kazuya, characters who are heavy hitters and could do seriously bad things if they get infected. I can also tell that Palutena doesn't have any free will, but is still conscious in what she's doing, which is why she cries and apologizes to Pit at the end of Epilogue 4. And speaking of guest characters, I said I'll get back to Sonic. So now prepare for the Sonic crash out. Sonic's fucking cooked! Loft has really put a lot of effort into this series, and there is some crazy talent as well in this series. From the artwork to the storytelling and the themes used in analog horror, this is something I heavily recommend you go check out for yourself. Whether you're a fan of analog horror or a fan of the Super Smash Bros. Series, please go check this series out. And without further ado, I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I do plan on doing a video on this on Season 2 when that is complete, so I do hope you guys will come back for when Season 2 is finished and that video is made. But with that all being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'm happy that you guys were able to bear with me with some of my theory making, as this is one of the first times I'm actually doing something like this for a video, as most of these new videos are for this year so far. These videos have been. So I hope you guys are just bearing with me with the way I'm presenting these videos, and hopefully when I cover Season 2 I'll be able to do things a lot better. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good rest of your day.